वासंसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णा अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि.
Hello everyone, we have a Gujarati American who has indulged himself into the Indian culture in a very pious, pure and noble way. Amit Majumdar, right here with us at Sela Fest 2022. Welcome to YoIndiaTV with me Jasleen Khanuja. It's a pleasure to meet you, and we have seen your beautiful poetry that you just read, about the dot head or the bindi. I'm wearing a bindi too, and it's a symbolic of getting connected to that one almighty, it symbolizes unification.
Right.
How did you get inspired to write about bindi in US?
Well, it's something that in America it's a very distinctive thing. In India, no one notices if you're wearing a bindi, but I know that my mom or various relatives, they wear a bindi here. It stands out. And also, early on in the diaspora in the 1970s, there was a time where in New Jersey where there was a group called the Dot Busters. So they would look for women who were wearing the bindi, and they would basically target them, right? And I thought about the term dot head, which is something that they would call women wearing bindis, and I thought that there was a way to turn that into a poem and to turn that into kind of a story that took back that phrase, took back that slur, and asserted the pride and cultural glory of our Dharma and our way.
No, I see. So so your poems are basically very message oriented, like dot head is connecting to the Indian culture. It's giving the right message for the Hindus and for others to understand what our culture is. And you have also translated the pious Bhagvad Geeta into English, As an Indian American who is from the second generation, how difficult or how easy was it for you to do this kind of a translation?
Well, I think if it was anything other than the Gita, it would have been very tedious and painful and painstaking to do. But because it was the Gita and because I love that ancestry, that heritage, and that tradition, it was pleasurable. It was a pleasurable labor, and I would do it again. I plan to do it again, And I think my work there is never done, and I believe that it is, just it nourishes me spiritually, and the least I can do is give back in that way.
So when you say you plan to do it again, what does it mean to you? When you have already translated the entire thing, and what I understand is you have also done it in a poetic way,
right,
to give the message in a beautiful form that people will go on to read, and not get tired or get distracted, right?
Right. So I believe that, well, for me at least, the Gita is infinite, and the potential translations of the Gita are infinite. And I feel that there are other ways in which each one of those verses can be rendered. And at some point, I do intend to find a new verse form that I can use to express as accurately and as faithfully as possible what is in the Gita. And I've already actually begun that second one. And it's an alliterative verse, which involves the repetition of consonantal sounds. And at some point, I will work on that and write a larger commentary on it, and maybe someday in the future, I'll publish another translation of the Gita.
Wow, this is simply wow. So, we have so many shlokas of Gitas that we by-hearted as a kid,
Nainang chindanti shastrani, nainang dahati pavaka. न चैनं क्लेद्यन्त्यापो न शोष्यति मारुता. आत्मा ना शस्त्रों से छेदी जा सकती और ना ही अग्नि से जलाई जा सकती. न जल उसे निर्बल कर सकता है और ना ही पवन उसे सुखा सकती. आत्मा शरीर में रहते हुए भी अमर.
And there was a Mahabharata TV episode also very popular in India when we were children,
Yada yada hi dharmasya ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानम् अधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम् परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृताम् धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे। हाँ पार्थ, मैं प्रकट होता हूं, मैं आता हूं। जब जब धर्म की हानि होती है तब तब मैं आता हूं, जब जब अधर्म बढ़ता है तब तब मैं आता हूं। सज्जन लोग
वंशांसी जीर्णानि यथा विहाय गुह्यम च गुहति गुणान प्रकटी करोति and so on. I think the most popular is karmanyavadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachan. So what's something that is closest to your heart as a preacher, as a practitioner? Sure. And the second thing is, like, what is something that was the most difficult for you to translate and to present rhythmically?
Sure. So I think for me the verse that is central, ironically you should mention heart, that sarvasya chahan radisanni vishro, which means that I am seated in the hearts of everyone. And I think that is the most empowering message, particularly at a festival like this, where we speak of humanity. I think that idea that in every living thing, in every human being, regardless of creed, caste, class, color, gender, you name it, the divine is seated in the hearts of everyone, and that is the most empowering and egalitarian idea that has ever been conceived by the mind of human beings, and it is to be found in the Dharmic tradition and there alone. And I believe that that's the most illuminating and deepest idea of that tradition, and it is the one to which I hope the future belongs. As far as what is most difficult, I believe that being able to find the right form, the right way, the right verse line with which to translate the Gita was the hardest thing. I went through more than one attempt at different forms to actually end up with the final form that I ended up with. So
no, but is there a particular shloka or
it's a shloka. I think with that everything was basically equally difficult because I was researching every last word, and I think that basically when there's a list of traits like charity, austerity, generosity, kindness, a lot of times Krishna will list those traits, and it was a little bit difficult to keep the same order of those traits and at the same time have it fit the meter. That was the hardest thing to do, really.
So I understand that in the state of Gujarat back in India, there are two kinds of practitioners, one that worship Lord Krishna in his childhood form or the Balyakal Roop, and the others who worship Krishna when he has grown up and he is giving out the sermons of Bhagavad Geeta.
Right.
So how do you find these two different, and when you see and read Bhagavad Geeta, how do you think it applies to all ages, whether you are a child or you are a young adult or you have grown up in your life, I know Bhagavad Gita is all pervasive. It applies to every part of the world and to every human being in all his phases of growth, right? So how do you connect between those people who worship Krishna in his childhood form and the application of Bhagavad Gita?
Sure. I feel that everyone has a different Krishna that they can basically connect with. And I think the reason why Bal Krishna, Krishna among the gopis, Krishna of the Mahabharata and Krishna of the Gita specifically, where Shri Krishna Uvacha becomes Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the reason that all of these things coexist in our tradition is in order to have a Krishna or have a yoga for every different person, regardless of their temperament, their personality, their tendency, or their preferences. And so it's not as though you have to pursue all of them at the same time. You can find the one that you love, you can find the one that speaks to you and that compels you and that you find beautiful, and pursue that in your own way. And I think that's part of the beauty of the Dharmic tradition, which is that there are many panths and there are many ways and many yogas. The Gita itself speaks of Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. That's for different temperaments. Some people prefer knowledge, some people prefer works, some people prefer devotion. And that's one of the keys to both the Gita and to the larger Krishna tradition and to the larger Hindu or Dharmic tradition, which is that there are many ways, all of which are united in this one larger tradition.
And people can connect to Lord Krishna or to the one Almighty in the true sense at different ages, depending on how they're feeling.
Different ages, different ways. In your youth, you may like one way, and then in your old age, you may like another way, and it's all good.
So there is plurality here as well, while the objective is one, which is unification and integration to that one great soul.
Brahman.
Brahman. And you mentioned earlier there is a Brahma inside each one of us.
The Atman is Brahman, right. The self is the divine, right.
Yeah. So I think you have imbibed the teachings and preachings of the Bhagavad Gita yourself, since you translated it and you...
I tried to,
Yeah, you went to the depth of each and every word and you tried to put it in the right way so that audience can get the right message, So as an Indian American who is a second generation Indian here in the USA, I think it's not easy, especially even in today's world. Gen Z is sometimes not able to understand a lot of things. It's very difficult to communicate the right message.
Right.
Because this is not easy. It's not like one simple thing. Why Krishna was surrounded by gopis is also interpreted in a lot of ways.
Right.
How did you get it right? How much time it took for you as an Indian American to, come up to the point where you really understood the Dharma?
Right. And again, it's perhaps presumptuous of me to claim that I understand the Dharma in its entirety. I make my efforts and I do what work I can, what karma I can. I feel that it's an ongoing process, both for me and for the diaspora as a whole. And I believe that, the story has not been completely written yet. And we continue to write the story as we go. The story of how the Dharma will continue here in the West, among the diaspora, among Americans who are attracted to the Dharma, or in India, or in other parts of the world. This is all remains to be determined, and we will find ways to get the message across, to re-articulate the message, to cast the message in pleasing and attractive forms that are enlightening, forms that are modern, and forms that are of the future. And I look forward to being a part of that during the time I have here on Earth, and then perhaps in lives to come as well.
Yeah. So how is Ohio and California different? Did you find any particular thing which is, of interest to you that you would like to point out to the audience?
Sure. I have to say I love the Bay Area. My wife was basically from Fremont, and she grew up here. She loves Ohio now, but we love the Bay Area as well. The weather cannot be beat. There's a wonderful and vibrant diasporic community here. There's great food and there's great natural beauty, and Ohio has a lot of that as well. And so those, I think, what I would like to emphasize is the similarities between Ohio and the Bay Area, which is that they both have wonderful people, wonderful natural beauty, and I love that I have a connection here in the Bay Area, and I love that I live in Ohio.
So as a poet, what inspires you to go ahead with your next piece of writing, and what's coming up next? What can the readers expect?
Sure. So I'm always in a churn and always trying to come up with new things to write. In April of 2023, I have a book coming out called Black Avatar. It's about how Krishna Bhagwan was black, Vyasadeva was black, Draupadi was black-skinned, and yet today in modern India there's an excessive emphasis on skin bleaching creams and the beauty of light skin. I take you through the history of this transformation where Indians at one point exalted black skin as most beautiful, and then over time were warped into thinking that they were not beautiful and that only fair skin was beautiful. And then after that, in May of 2023, I have a memoir coming out. It's called Twin A. I was a father of twins in 2008, and one of the twins, but not the other, one of the twins had a congenital heart defect that required several congenital heart surgeries, and I wrote this book for my son to teach him and to tell him exactly what went on with him when he was just a year old, or a couple years old. And so I kind of narrate the kind of surgeries that he went through and the struggle that he had, the health struggles that he had before he was before he was even 3 years old.
Wonderful. So till then, those who haven't read your books, your poetry, which is one piece of writing that you would recommend to the viewers?
I would recommend that the viewers pick up God's Song, a diverse translation of the Bhagavad Geeta with commentary, because that is not what I myself have written. The true answer there, I would love for you to pick up all my novels and my books of poetry, but that would be from a selfish motive. But I think that the truly ego-devoid answer to that question is for you to just focus on the translation of the Gita, and if that compels you, you can go elsewhere in my work. Thank you.
So deep dive into spirituality only with Amit Majumdar's beautiful translation of the Bhagavad Gita, the richest, divinest, purest book that anyone would ever find on this earth. One of the most beautifully scripted, as well as a book that gives a true message for each one of us to imbibe and live. So keep watching YoIndiaTV and keep getting inspired by great authors like Amit Majumdar, and especially for the Gen Z. This is your time to get inspired, also to be very optimistic that you will fully one day understand the Indian culture and our religion as well, that teaches us all the sacrifice as well as connection to the Almighty while staying indulged in our daily business. So with this, I, Jasleen Khanuja, would like to wind up from Sela Fest 2022. Thank you, Amit Majumdar, for this wonderful conversation with YoIndiaTV.
Thank you.
And have a good time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.